Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the latest one-to-one. My name is Martin Redmayne. Our digital dialogue series is going to get into real action now between now and the end of the year. We're planning another 30 or 40 interviews and chats about the future of our market. I'm joined today by Daniel Kerkhof, the director of Marine at Crestron. Is that right, Daniel?
That's right, Martin. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. How about yourself?
I'm all right. I'm all right. It's a strange time, but we're making the most of it. Making the most of it.
Exactly, that's what it is.
Yeah. So listen, the one-to-ones that we have, we've called it "Are You Not Entertained?", which is obviously a little sort of skit on the gladiator sort of topic. Uh,
Mhm.
Let me talk about this subject of AVIT from your perspective. We've done some recent research with you. We've done some interesting conversations on the Crestron TV program. From your personal perspective as director of Marine and being in this market for quite a while, what is it that really frustrates you about this world we're in, the super yacht world of AVIT?
Well, first of all, I do have to say I'm not that frustrated in general. I'm a pretty much a positive person, and
Good.
so I'm not that frustrated. But of course, there are things that that could go better. And also, what I think was a very clear outcome of the research that you did is frustrations of owners, like in why can't we have the same sort of internet connectivity as we are used to in our homes, right? Why can't we have that on sea? I mean, we can put people on the moon, we can send people to Mars, or we're looking to do that and all that kind of stuff. Why would it be so hard to actually have a good and speedy internet connection on sea, right? I think that's one of the first things that will come on mind.
Yes.
And now, of course, we do not do anything with internet connectivity, so we can just look at the developments that we see there. But they do, of course, have an impact on our systems as well. If they want to watch a certain Netflix series and they're in the middle of the ocean and the TV, the broadcast isn't playing rapidly, then yeah, that's not something we can solve. But of course, they will say, hey, my audio video entertainment system isn't really working the way I want it, right?
Yeah. So you say that you're not really frustrated, but there
No,
are things that we can change. So
there are things that we can change, definitely. Yeah.
let's focus on those. What are they specifically, Daniel? What would you like to see change to improve not just connectivity, but the way in which we work as an industry? There was a very clear period where shipyards would de-risk themselves by saying everything's owner supply in the AVIT world,
Yep.
or that became this externalized integration process. Now, what would you like to see change there?
I think in general, shipyards obviously try to avoid any risks, right? But that's also logical, and in there, I mean, it's not something to blame them about. I mean, they do have to do. We do all expect very much from them. Though, if they would, sometimes maybe allow us a bit more to help, we could actually support them in there, because in the end, I mean, and some of them also do really know that, right? So certain risks need to be taken to actually get to the next level, to get to the next step. And but yeah, so definitely there are some who really try to avoid any kind of risk. As long as we just make a ordinary light switch, the light will always go on and off, and nothing more will happen. Yeah, true that it will happen then indeed, and there's very little risk to it. Though if you really want to, deliver the owner an experience that actually belongs in super yachting world, you maybe do need to take an extra step, definitely. And yes, a big topic in there also, I think, is sustainability. Not something that's sort of directly connected to us, although as a manufacturer, of course, we do try to make sure that our products work as sustainable as possible. But the other thing is that we very often, we're guys who automate stuff. We're used to that. That's something that we do in other spaces for a really long time already. We know when somebody is in the room. We know when the owner is on board, or we know when he's not there. So it's very simple almost for us to then switch off systems who are not necessary, right? And what always still surprises me, if you are in Southern Europe somewhere close to a nice harbor, and you will look at a boat, the lights on the whole vessel will be lighted the whole evening, right? Though
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that not all decks will be filled with people at that time. So
exactly.
why not, if there's nobody on that deck, just switch off the whole lights and the HVAC for that deck, for instance, right? Those kind of things. It's typical examples of the technologies that we have been using over the last 30 years at least already in office buildings, also to save energy, right? So also for the super yachts, I think that those integrations would be nothing more than logical.
So is that happening actively now, or is that something you think is a big step we have to take? Because I agree with that. I think when you look at a yacht sitting in port, uh, and we hear about the fuel consumption just on the air conditioning systems, it doesn't make any sense with what I call this new energy efficient world we're currently living in. As you say, every building is now smarter, and your word of sustainability is about being smarter. Smart
Exactly.
energy, smart systems, smart buildings are a big topic. So, how quickly can this change? It should be quite a quick step change, shouldn't it?
It should indeed be a quick step change. And I mean, the first thing is obviously we do not want to lose on any comfort, right? So you do need to know how to switch on and when to switch off those systems and all that kind of stuff. But actually, it should be relatively easy. And here, I think it's also down very much to the subcontractors who actually work on the build in the yard. The HVAC subcontractor is very much a different person and different company than the electrical contractor, than the AVIT contractor. And to integrate those systems, they do need to communicate with each other, of course, right?
Yeah.
And I think very often, yeah, the communication between those separate pillars almost is very limited. And I think that's where the arts could play a role as well, to, to more like push those companies to actually work together to deliver a better product altogether, right?
Well, that's a fairly common statement I hear in the market over the last 10 years or so about this getting together and discussing an optimized process or optimized system early enough to integrate it in a smarter way. Um, I think that's one of the things that really can be a big change in the future is to, before a project starts, bring people together, bring people and say, listen, how do we make the smartest system possible? And some owners have done that. Some owners have actually made that become part of their project to make sure that everyone's working together to increase the, let's say, the efficiency, but also the intelligence of the project.
Yeah.
Because what we don't want is money wasted or time wasted. And then ultimately, when the boat is delivered, this whole process of energy wasted or frustrations of systems
Yeah.
not working.
Well,
So what you're saying there is that the market has to start working together even more so than ever.
definitely. Yeah. But also those subcontractors, right? They're also risk avoiding and work avoiding. So, and yeah, somebody needs to push them to actually work together. And it could be the owner, it could be the art, or better, even a combination of the both, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's another topic of who is the person that pushes that sort of process. And as you quite rightly say, it probably should be both sides of the deal, if you like, or the conversation. The project team should be on both sides of a round table, not opposite sides of a rectangular table, discussing a project in not conflict, but like sort of deciding who's to blame or whose decision it is.
Yep. Yep.
I think you're right. The supply chain and the subcontractors, from my understanding, from just observing the last 10 years, you can see that this risk management process could be stifling the end result.
Definitely. Yeah, true. And I mean, yeah, also again, right? It's I can understand it as well. Sometimes it's logical, but as soon as they are pushed to, to just go a step further and also awarded for that, I'm sure much better results will come. Yeah.
How does it work on land projects? You've been involved in land projects and that sort
Yep.
of complex sort of home entertainment systems or the complex AVIT in a big building. What is the difference between the process of project management or coordination there to a yacht project, and what can we learn?
Yeah, well, if you look at the residential market, which is yeah, a world Crestron also plays a big part in, there we do see this much more often. But why is that? Very much because the owner is much more vocal very often and is much more involved with the whole build process.
Yeah,
And he actually just pushes parties. Okay, why do I need to have two user interfaces on that location? One for the HVAC and one for the lighting system. I just want one because that's more pretty as well, right?
yeah.
So that's just where he pushes it from, and he's yeah. That these owners, they tend to think already a bit more like, okay, if I'm not on that floor and if there's nobody else on that floor, the HVAC shouldn't be working there. And just as soon as I arrive or as soon as I come home, I want the HVAC to actually turn on. So over there, we are definitely a step further already. but it shouldn't be that difficult to also take that step for the super yachting market.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned about sort of connectivity and the speed. How important is that to making your system really perform? Based on what you were just saying then about this sort of seamless integration and everything working seamlessly, how critical is that, and how can we manage that process from the build program or the actual integration program? Because I think all these things add up into one big conversation.
Yeah, they should. And I mean, for the integration with third parties, the internet connectivity luckily is not needed, right? This is something that all happens on premise on the board on the yacht. The experience for the owner with if we go down to internet connectivity, yeah, of course it could improve, though there are quite smart ways to already, sort of make sure that he doesn't notice it too much. But still, it's a very big limitation if you talk about entertainment systems. And I am pretty sure, though, it will be solved in a couple of years, right? We do see initiatives like the Google Balloons and the Starlink satellites, and there are definitely companies looking or investing into solutions where I think in maybe 5 years from now, we can probably see super yachts that have a real broadband internet connection. But yeah, for the moment, it's still a limitation to work around. And what I see, for instance, the clever integrators, what do? They take the whole library that the owner is actually listening to on Spotify, and they just download it all and they put it all on a server in the yacht. So, he gets the experience and the quality that he wants, and he doesn't really need an internet connection to have that.
So, so is that a common practice now, or is that, yeah?
Yeah. That's like I said, it's pretty much a workaround for making sure that when there's not enough bandwidth, it's not directly noticeable for the owner.
So do you think that's another smarter way of actually sort of managing the onboard experience, of actually sort of reducing the dependency on bandwidth?
That's how it works nowadays.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's just because that's the only solution that you can offer nowadays. And
yeah.
if the bandwidth is there, those systems can definitely go to the next step and be more quicker, more smarter, more adjustable.
One of the things, going back to the home entertainment world or the land-based residential world, we talked previously about in a previous conversation we've had about, are we showing our clients in yachting what they really can do to the next level, or to a new level of entertainment, or to get something like they do have at home? Forget the bandwidth for the moment, but like, what technology and what systems can we sort of see in the future now?
I think what we do nowadays, I mean, a big step was already the AV over IP whole changed, which has happened during the last couple of years and something that we're still very active with, but that's already a big step forward. I think the next step is going to do something with localization, so that we know exactly who is where on the vessel, and that according to that we can adjust all systems. But therefore, obviously, we do need to have that integration first. We do need to have that integration with the HVAC system, with the lighting system, with the security system, and with all the other systems on board, because then we can make sure that not only the AVIT part is reacting to that person being in that certain room or deck, but we can make the whole boat actually reacting to that.
Yeah.
And that is going to improve the experience that an owner gets in terms of entertainment, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's an interesting subject in terms of that when you walk on board a boat, and I think we've talked about this as well. The subject of you walk on board and you have your land-based devices coming on board.
Yeah.
Now that transition from a stepping on the passerelle or coming on the tender and into the boat, how seamless is it?
Today, it's if you're arriving to the boat, I think that's still pretty seamless, but that's just because the crew is doing manual work because they know that you're coming, right? It is not automated. It just the experience is there because of the good work of the crew.
Yes.
But as soon as you're longer on board, obviously the crew, for them it's harder to look in their glass ball to know where you're going, right?
Yeah.
So then they do need more technology to keep on having that same experience, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a key relationship, as you say, between the crew and the guest from an AVIT perspective.
100%. Yeah, the crew is very important for the whole experience of the guests on board. And that's also, yeah, the last couple of years at Crestron, we've also been investing quite heavily in getting them trained, making them feel comfortable with all the technology on board. And I think that's also, yeah, it shows its advantages right now. And that's something that we do plan to keep on investing in and to making sure those trainings are available for those guys. And another step, for instance, that I think would be very important to support this in the future is, for instance, for the recruitment agencies to also make sure that they look at what kind of certificates is this guy actually having, what kind of education did he follow, and if he's going to go on a very large superyacht with a heavy Crestron installation, yeah, why not ask him for his Crestron certificates, for instance, right? So that we know he has a certain education from the manufacturer.
Yeah. Do you think there's a shortage of good people in the market that know the AVIT sector from an operations point of view?
Yeah, I think so. I do think, well, I do notice that a lot of yachts actually miss a guy who really knows what's happening in the AVIT side. Yeah.
On the owner side.
So for the crew on board, right? So really has a certain experience with Crestron. I mean, like I said, we just only started 2 years ago to actually be more open to those guys and to actually get them involved in the training program. So it's logical as well.
Yeah.
But we did train a couple of, I think 200 to 300 guys now. So up to a certain level. So we're getting there, but still, I mean, yeah, there's obviously much more crew out there. So.
And what is it you're actually training the people? What is the actual the real value of that training? Is it just purely operational, or is it maintenance as well? What's the level of training?
Yeah, it's a bit of maintenance, but very important also if something goes wrong. You never know, or there is a demand of an owner that wasn't in the system before. If they have a bit more insight in how the system actually works, it's much easier for them to decide, okay, this is what's going wrong, or this is what needs to change, and to actually report that back to the system integrator or the programmer of the boat. And if that information is much more complete, obviously they will be able to much quicker have a solution for it.
Yeah.
So in the old days, we saw sometimes that it took 2 to 3 weeks for the guys on land to actually needed to do programming, to actually have clear what they exactly needed to do. And if they get much better input, then obviously they'll be much quicker as well.
Yeah.
And also for our support guys, if something really goes wrong and something breaks down, which can always happen, for our support guys, we also see that the information they get is already much better, and then very often there will be some spare parts on board as well, which is obviously something we are a big fan of as well. And then it could very well be that the ETO, with a little bit of remote support from our side or from the system integrator, could actually solve the issue quickly himself, without the owner maybe even knowing it.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the class societies recently about the whole world of VR and the sort of remote learning or remote surveys.
Yeah.
Is that something that's coming into the AV world, where you can actually have a crew member and a sort of shore-based technology company working together to operate and upgrade and maintain through VR headsets or whatever?
It would be great if we could do that via VR. Yeah, I can definitely see it coming. We're not there yet, but we're taking important steps, I think. Something also, I mean, yeah, because of the whole situation, obviously, we used to train a lot in classes.
Yeah.
Well, since the beginning of this year, that's not really feasible anymore.
Yeah.
So we were already developing a whole new online portal, and that is actually there now. It got pushed forward, and we launched it in April, I think. And since then, yeah, the whole education is being done online, so it's reachable for everybody from anywhere. And we do it in a couple of time zones to make sure you do not have to study in the middle of the night.
Sure.
So that's already a step forward, and VR would definitely be a next step forward for those kind of classes as well, right? I mean, right now we use Zoom rooms, and we put people in there like kind of webinar style, but still it's instructor led. So we do try to have feedback and to actually do a couple of different things during the class, hands on. But also there, if we could do that in VR, yeah, obviously that experience would even be better, right?
But I was just more thinking about also the remote maintenance or remote sort of repairs that could be done by a crew member with the guidance of someone ashore. I think it's where commercial shipping or aviation is at the moment in terms of those highly technical servicing systems that are linked by VR headsets, and it'd be quite cool, I think, from a next step in our market to sort of reduce the downtime through waiting for a engineer to come on board, because there was
Yeah.
always that wonderful sort of anecdote of yachting where the most important tool on a engineer's list was his mobile phone to call
Yeah.
service. And I think there's a lot more remote work that can be done now, almost driven by COVID, but also driven by technology. That remote servicing is going to become a part of the future, I think.
Yeah, true. But they do obviously then need a basic level of knowledge themselves. Like, okay, how does this system actually work? What kind of parts does it exist out of? And I mean, especially if our systems, right? It's very much bespoke. It's always custom. Um, so it's not like yeah, it always looks the same. You do really need some knowledge to actually be able to uh, look at a system and to say, okay, this is how it works. This is how it's actually put together. And
Yeah,
if you've got a little bit of experience, a little bit of background from our education program, I'm sure that you can do that like within a couple of hours. You know, you can determine, okay, this is what the system looks like, and if there's a fault, then you can start searching for it, and you should be able to know within a half a day, okay, this is exactly where it's going wrong, and then you can decide whether you need your mobile phone or whether you have a spare on board that can actually solve it already. Yeah.
sure, sure. Another what I call interesting topic I want to bring up, Daniel, is how how many integrators are there in the market that you would say are high quality and good at what they're doing, and how do you choose those people as a client? To me, that's one of the things that's always been an interesting subject of knowing what you're working with and how do you verify or validate
Yep.
that integrator is good at their job.
Yep.
And that can make a big difference to a project.
Yeah, definitely. It can make a big difference. And just like we talked about certificates for crew, we do obviously for already a long time have certificates for companies as well. So if you want to know whether they are really experienced with Crestron, that's one of the things to look at. But the marine market, again, is of course very much a niche market towards residential and commercial, which are other spaces that Crestron is very active in. And a very good commercial integrator is probably not going to do a very good job in a marine world, right? So we do really look at the companies that we feel are experienced, well educated, and are capable of delivering a very good project in the marine world. And we list them actually on our website. We have a separate landing page for marine, crestron.com/marine. And that's where we actually list those integrators. And if you look on there are like 60 companies globally that we believe are good enough for us to put out there as, okay, these are the guys to work with in a marine project. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and that's, like I said, about 60 globally. So that's not a large amount if you look at the whole list of Crestron integrators, which is a couple of thousand companies easily worldwide.
hmm. And in terms of let's say your relationship with these integrators, who has the liability for the project?
In the end, they obviously are the subcontractor, right? We're just backing them up. We support them, and that's very much what I do with those integrators. As soon as they've got any questions, any things they run into, if they need any support whatsoever, yeah, that's where we come into play. And I try to, I do coordinate all those things to make sure that they get the right info and they deliver the right project. Because in the end, obviously for us, that's very important. It's our brand that actually is on the remote or on the touch panel or on the AV over IP encoder or decoder.
Yeah,
And that's what they will look at if it isn't working, right? Hey, I've got my Crestron thing in my hand and it isn't working. So it's not good for us.
yes,
So that's why we have a very close relationship with those companies to make sure that what kind of projects they're working on, that we know the insights of it and we support them as good as possible. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, now a couple of last questions before we finish is one is if you could change one thing about our industry, what would it be?
One thing, well, Yeah, in the beginning we talked very much about the cooperation and how we work together on a build on the yard. And if everybody would be more open there and more looking into cooperations instead of just, risk avoiding and protecting their own little piece, and that's everything I do and I don't want to talk to anybody else because it's scary. Yeah, if we could change that, that would be great.
Do you have any ideas of how that could change? Are there any examples or case studies or systems out there that you think if we applied this to yachting, it would definitely bring that open source approach to working together?
Well, the fun thing is, I think those systems already exist and we all use them already, right? I mean, we're very much open to communicate with everybody, but I'm sure that's also, I mean, the lighting system that is going in there, if it isn't one of ours, but one of our competitors even, they are technically very much capable of doing those kind of things. The same goes for the HVAC systems.
Yeah.
It's just that the companies, the subcontractors installing it are not open too much to talk to each other and to actually say, okay, we want to improve the experience on board. We want to be more sustainable. We want those systems to automatically react to persons being in the room or not. But the systems technically can already do it. It's just people that have to talk to each other and to decide, okay, how are we going to integrate all those systems? Yeah.
So the question there is, why don't we do it?
Exactly. And I mean, there are good examples of where it did happen. So it's not that it never happens,
No, sure.
but I do see too many examples where it didn't happen.
But do you have a reason in your mind as to why it doesn't?
I think risk avoiding is a very big one. And the other one is being afraid of everything that's happening outside of your own world.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, final comment from you, Daniel. What do you think? What is your expectation for the future? What's your long range expectation or forecast?
I think we're doing pretty good, but we do need to do a couple of things better, right? I mean, for the super yachting industry as a whole industry, we do obviously need to be able to speak better towards new owners, right? To the next generation, to make them interested in actually owning a yacht or chartering a yacht. We've all seen those researches where you see the amount of ultra high net worth people and the amount of super yachts that, they're not going up as quickly both. So we do need to make sure that we do keep the connection to those guys and that we keep on showing them how beautiful it is and what extra it could bring them to actually own a super yacht. And I think entertainment is a very big part in that because that's what they're going to look for, right? If they're going on a vacation, they want to be entertained. And I think sustainability is another very big part there because I think, that whole discussion is very vivid at the moment. So.
Yeah, no, I really like the idea of this sort of reducing energy and reducing waste, if you like, from that whole energy consumption topic through the operational side. That's a really it's something I'm always worried about because when you're on a boat in a hot climate and you're outside in 35 degrees of heat and you go inside, it's down to 15 degrees because the air conditioning is pumping out.
Yeah.
These contrasts are just, in my opinion, slightly crazy and very inefficient.
Yeah.
But I think what you're talking about to reduce should be part of our next generation of let's say operations as an industry. And to me, that's I hadn't even thought about Crestron's involvement in that in terms of how you're looking at it. But that's something I want to really explore further. It'll be really interesting as another conversation. Maybe as a workshop in the Super Yacht Forum plan. So, Daniel, thanks a million for your time. Thanks a million for your input.
Martin.
I'll speak to you again very soon. Thanks a lot.
Sounds like a good plan. Thanks. And thanks for inviting me, of course. And well, have a great day. We'll speak soon.
See you soon. All right. Cheers, Daniel.